I start to think of my father first, who had passed away by that time. And I start to think of how he worked in the fields day in and day out throughout his entire life. And what he would do in the fields, he would figure things out. Because that's really what a farmer does, right?
It's really an honor to have conversations with leaders from California and Mexico at this forum that we just hosted here at UCSD. I want to thank UCSD for hosting us, the California-Mexico Universities Opportunity Forum, where we had conversations with presidents from universities and chancellors, academics, researchers, leaders in policy, talking about how we can bridge the divide that exists between our two countries and primarily focus on California and Mexico. That's what these conversations were all about, and it was really an honor to have these conversations with all these leaders. They all had a unique perspective, a really wonderful opportunity to learn from all of them. I hope you enjoy them as well. Dr. Jimenez, thank you very much for being here, for agreeing to have a conversation about what we're living through today, this convening, this gathering. Appreciate you coming down. Fresno State University, a wonderful institution in our California State University system.
Thank you.
Please tell me a little bit more about your story.
Sure, yeah.
I love to hear people's story about how they got into the work that they do today. I always share, as you heard earlier, my first generation story.
Right.
I think there's a lot of value in that, and so I'd love to hear your story.
So my grandfather came to the United States back in 1941. And then after that, he was in the bracero program. And then he brought my father in 1951. And then my father was in the bracero program. And then my dad would go back and forth between Mexico and the U.S. And in 1980, he finally decided to move us all. I grew up in a small tomato farm that my dad had, which meant waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning and going through, 5 o'clock. And that was like 24/7 during the summer. And from there, I grew up in the Central Valley. I graduated from Fowler High. I graduated in 1989. And then after that, I decided to go away from the Fresno region, not because I didn't want to go to Fresno State, but because I'm the 8th of 8. And I have 5 sisters and 2 brothers. They all love me very much. And I just felt like I needed to get away, and I needed to grow on my own. I came back to Fresno State in 2000 with a PhD in Spanish and Portuguese poetry. And at that point, I began to teach, and I would see this development of thought with my students. They were insecure. From being insecure, they were sophomores questioning whether they should be at Fresno State or not. And then finally, they were juniors, and they were saying to themselves, I do belong. They were seniors, and they were saying to themselves, I belong, and Fresno State belongs to me. And that development is what fuels me today. I became then the chair of my department. After that, I became the dean. After that, I became the provost. And then I became the president, all within the same institution, all within the same region in which I grew up.
You're homegrown.
I'm homegrown, and I never thought that I was going to be president.
Where did you go away to college?
I was at Irvine, UC Irvine, and then I did studies at Cornell as well.
That's such a great example. We've been talking with a few other folks about our public university system, our higher education system in California. You went to a UC, the other system, and now you work and you help run one of our CSU campuses.
That's exactly right. And I think the critical thinking skills that I learned at Irvine, I apply them each and every day within Fresno State. And what Fresno State has taught me, what my students taught me at Fresno State, is immeasurable as well. So it's a great synergy of sorts of learning as well.
And it's really at the end of the day, for, in my case, a policymaker. I was speaking earlier with former Speaker Perez.
Sure.
The work that we do, which sometimes from a elected official standpoint is so removed from the important work you do on a day-to-day basis, but it's really ultimately about, are we producing the workforce, in your case, the education workforce, that then fuels our economy? Again, you demonstrate exactly what we hope to accomplish. You go to one of our public institutions, and you stay in California, and you give back, and that's what you're doing now.
So get this, right? I become president of Fresno State, and I began a listening tour of sorts, and people keep asking me, what's your vision? What's your vision? What's your vision? And I start to think of my father first, who had passed away by that time. And I start to think of how he worked in the fields day in and day out throughout his entire life. And what he would do in the fields, he would figure things out. Because that's really what a farmer does, right? Like a really good farmer is not one who grows food, is one who figures things out through becoming an engineer. And that's essentially it, right? The pump broke, now I have to fix it. The water's not running properly. I have to reconfigure the course of the water.
The vine is in the wrong direction.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So all of this then led me to believe that I needed to combine synergies between agriculture and engineering. So my two big colleges, ag and engineering, right? They needed to collaborate synergistically with each other. And then the third thing that I thought about, my dad would grow the tomatoes, he would take them to the packing house, and then that's it, they were gone forever, right? Without no one knowing that someone named Alfonso Jiménez had actually grown these tomatoes in the fertile soil of the Central Valley. And without really knowing that they came from the Central Valley either. It's California produce, right? So within that, then I started to think there has to be ag, engineering, and business into one. So this sort of like holy trinity of sorts has guided me based primarily on what my father taught me and what I learned in the fields, but also what I saw within Fresno State as well.
I hope it's okay if I get a little personal
Please.
with you, because my
Please.
father was very important to my story. And he passed away a few years, the year before I got elected to
Sorry to hear.
Thank you, to the assembly. But I found myself, I was in public service. I left for 4 years and I thought I was done with it.
Right.
But I found after my dad passed away, really like thinking about, is this all I've got to give? When my father, who was also a bracero, a farm worker, he made the journey every year back and forth to the hometown, and he worked harder than I will ever work, because that's the work of a farm worker. And I realized I've got more to give, and so I'm connecting with you on that because I appreciate you sharing the story. How long ago did you lose your father before you took this position?
Yeah, so my father I became president, so he saw me become president, and we were going to have an investiture, but then it was postponed, and then he passed before I was actually, officially inducted into the presidency. But he did see me as president, and I think, to your point, a leader who is invested in his community, such as you are, right? One can tell that because you don't do the work just because there's legacy and there's renown and whatever. No,
money.
Or money, for sure. Right? You do the work because there is this memory that's pulsating within you of someone who sacrificed for you. You do the work because there are friends and neighbors from your region that are impacted in a very profound way by what you do. And the same thing that I see at Fresno State. I am so fortunate to be the president of a university in a region in which I grew up, in a region in which I taught my own students, right? Because for me, it's not this theoretical, I'm doing this because it's a job, right? It's this life mission that I have.
It's service. It's a calling for service.
It is, to empower my students to become that bridge to leadership within the region that is now 60% Latino.
Well, and one thing I've come to learn, I'm from San Diego, born and raised.
Sure.
We don't have a very large agricultural presence. Minor, it exists, but not very much. And now that I'm in Sacramento all the time, and I have colleagues who represent the Central Valley and come to see the world from a statewide perspective, not just a San Diego perspective, agriculture is really important. It is a larger part of our economy than Hollywood is, yet, all the attention is always on Hollywood and LA, and of course we love Hollywood and LA and we want them to be successful, but agriculture is big.
It's huge. And I think what we need to realize is that the foundational basis for a society that is moving forward, for a country that is moving forward, is food. Food security is at the basis of any country that is thriving. So food security is a national security issue. And the 25% that the Central Valley produces in food for the entire U.S., right, on the backs of people who day in and day out sacrifice a lot in order to produce the food that we get to eat on our tables, it's tremendous. It's huge. It is a most noble thought to think of these people and say, you are feeding me. I am so ever grateful for what you do in the fields.
given that Fresno is about an 7-hour drive from the border with Mexico, given that the issues of Fresno, while they're related because of migratory issues to a place like Mexico, but you're not really here on the border. Why do conversations like the one we're having today about binational programs or student programs, why does that matter to you?
It matters deeply to me because I think I see in my own students this hunger to connect with the old country. They're very much Americans, and they're very, very much proud to be Americans. But their intimate personal life is touched upon language and beliefs and thoughts and myths and food that is a very specific food, very specific part of their own ethos as beings. Within this, it's not just my Latino students who would benefit from a stronger connection between Mexican universities and Fresno State. If it's ag, if it's engineering, if it's business, if it's health related, I'm all in, right? But it is the greater community of the Fresno region as well. I have a thriving Hmong community in the region. 15% of my students are Hmong. They are fully integrated with the Latino community, and vice versa, right? My Anglo students, day in, day out, they live and breathe the power of Mexican culture in and out. They eat Mexican food. I just met somebody the other day. I was at the booth on campus. I have a booth on campus, and then students come up to me and they talk to me. And he came, he was saying small talk, and then pretty soon he said, well, today is my day for Mexican because, I can't be without Mexican food. So it is, but it is this element that is within us all. Yeah. It's this interconnected nature between California specifically and Mexico that is ever present that I want to bring forth to the campus. And I want us to be aware of what is happening in Mexico. We just had an exhibition of Marin, this sculptor from Mexico City, of angels, throughout the city. And people thought, wait, this is Mexican art? Yes, it's modern Mexican art. What is modern Mexico doing nowadays that from which we can learn, and then we can exchange ideas as well?
So have you had an opportunity in the last couple hours that we've been here to hear anything that's really called your attention that you think maybe that's something we can pursue at Fresno State, whether it's relationship exchanges, academic, even faculty maybe? What have you taken away so far?
I'm connecting with universities that primarily have interest in agriculture. And I'm also connecting with universities that are connecting on the public health aspect of things as well. My social work program, for example, has incredible students who would be able to dive into issues that we can collaborate on. And what when I gave the speech today, I said, I need champions from your universities, meaning I need faculty members who are going to invest of themselves fully and completely to the program and say, I have an idea, I'm going to build it up, I'm going to do the work. I have faculty members, for example, who led study abroad programs in Mexico City for 3 weeks. For 3 weeks, they explored every major museum in Mexico City with art history. The students who came back to us, the 50 students who came back to us, to Fresno State, are returning with eyes of the world, with eyes of, an appreciation of Mexico, an appreciation of themselves, appreciation of the valley, an appreciation of, how it is that we are interconnected in so many ways. So these are the things that I'm intentionally going to universities with whom I can say, there's a program that I have, a program in cheesemaking, for example, with Universidad Autónoma de Aguascalientes. Let's be intentional about cheesemaking in Mexico and cheesemaking in the Fresno region as well.
Yeah, there's you say that, and I'm like, there's opportunities I haven't even thought about cheesemaking.
Oh, completely.
Right? That's an industry that could be created. Yes. We have the most dairy farms in the Central Valley in California.
That's it. We are the highest dairy producer in all of the United States. Yeah. So yes, absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being a part of this. You've really contributed a lot. It's been an honor to just get to know you over the last 12 hours, I think, or 18 hours. I hope that this is as fruitful as not just a conversation. I think everybody's talking about how do we get action?
Yeah,
How do
I
we
want
take
next
action?
steps, concrete next steps. So that's what I'm working
we definitely
on.
have work to do, and I want to thank you for
Thank you so much,
sharing.
Alvarez.
Great
Truly
to have
appreciate
you.
all you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you.